Welcome, everybody. My name is Linda. It's the Importance of Working All 12 Steps workshop. Your co-leader today is Beverly. Please help us open the meeting with the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. For today's workshop, we're going to be talking about Step 11. In my literature, I have the 12 and 12, I have the Big Book, and I also have the OA 12 and 12 workbooks. Beverly has Voices of Recovery. There'll be time at the end of the workshop for sharing, so we encourage you to share after you hear the two speakers. My name is Linda. Like I said, I'm a grateful compulsive overeater. I'm going to give you a little bit of my story. I came into OA in September of 1989. I came in through AA. I was at an anniversary of a friend. It was his first anniversary, and I had never been involved in 12-step programs before. And as I sat there and I listened to everybody get up and qualify, I kept thinking, gee, their story was the same. I identified that was me, but I didn't drink, I ate. I was really impressed. When I went to work the next day, I was talking to my friend, and I was telling her about this. And I didn't know she was in 12-step programs. So I was telling her about this, and I was all excited. And I said, I wish there was a place that I could go because I eat. And she said, there is. And she told me she was in Overeaters Anonymous. She was dabbling in it. So that night we had a job where we spent a lot of time in the car together. So I always say, like any self-respecting overeaters, we ate our way through the 5 boroughs of New York, and then that night we went to a meeting. I sat and I listened with intent because I was desperate. I really knew I needed something. I couldn't stop eating, and I didn't know why. I didn't know why I did it. So that night, I got a sponsor. Back in the day, they gave you 30 questions in 30 days. So every night I had to write my food plan and answer a question. And she came over to me and she asked me, if I needed a sponsor, and I said yes. And she said, you're going to call me at 11 o'clock at night. And I thought about it, and I said, well, 11 o'clock at night, I usually go to bed early. She said, well, if you want what I have, you'll do what I do. And I said, okay, because I did want that. I worked with her, and at one point she came out with these little slogans that you're going to come in for your vanity and stay for your sanity. And I said, thinking to myself, I'm not crazy. But, at that point, I was just into the food. I had I didn't realize what my behaviors were about, that food had a lot to do with it. So as I continued, we worked the steps together. I realized that a lot of what I was pointing my finger at everybody, they say you point 1 and 3 are pointing back to you. I started to learn that I was also part of the problem. So it was nice going through the steps to find out that I could change. That was another thing. Change was very hard. But I knew that if I wanted what she had, I had to be willing to change. I had the willingness. I remember way back, we didn't have all the wonderful OA literature. We have a lot of wonderful OA literature today. We didn't have any of that. We had the Big Book and the AA 12 and 12. And I remember when I read the acceptance passage in the Big Book, then it was page 449 in the Big Book. I think now, if you're 4th edition, it's 417. But I read that, and I felt my shoulders just go down. I really felt like I needed to accept. I needed not to have any expectations. There was just so many things that I found myself learning, how to change by doing these things. So I continued on. My journey continues on, but through the journey, I learned to deal with all my disappointments, my anger, my resentment. I learned how to deal with all that without food. So anyway, for the last 26 years, I've been working my program, and I like to say I'm living in the steps and traditions because I do. I have to live in the steps and traditions to get along with the people, to, not to have my anger and resentment. And really, there have been a lot of things in my life that have happened that I would have ate over. And now, because of program, I don't have to eat over it anymore. My husband died 3 years ago, and that was the biggest blow. That was the biggest fear I had. And, we have a lot of fears. I have a lot of fears, and that program sustained me. My steps, my traditions, my belief in my higher power that he was going to carry me through. Step 11 helped a lot, prayer and meditation. I always had my religion, but prayer and meditation for me prayer was talking to God, and meditation was quieting my mind so that I could hear my HP. A lot of times I couldn't do that. I couldn't clear my mind. I couldn't quiet my mind. In the beginning, I didn't know what that was about, the discipline of prayer and meditation. They had all kinds of cute slogans for Step 11, pray until something happens. It said push, which meant pray until something happens. The best one that worked for me was, if you worry, don't pray, and if you pray, don't worry. And I used to think about that all the time because I would worry a lot about what was going to happen in the future, what happened in the past. And I learned to live in the present, learned to take that to heart, that if I prayed about things and had faith in my HP, I didn't have to worry about it. And it took a lot of practice to ask for the freedom of self-will because, I'm an undisciplined person. And believe me, self-will runs riot. I want it my way. I want it when I want it and right now. I want instant gratification. And sometimes I have to think about things to identify my motives. Am I being manipulative? Am I being passive-aggressive? Step 11, of course, helps with that because in the big book, I have it highlighted. And I'm going to read this passage to you. When we retire at night, we constructively review our day. Were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Do we owe an apology? Have we kept something to ourselves which would be discussed with another person at once? Were we kind and loving toward all? When I do go to bed at night, I think about that. I do my 11th step. If I need to make an amends, if I need to talk to my sponsor about something, if something's bothering me, I need to look at that. I need to examine it. And a lot of times I might need to write about it. I do talk to God a lot, and I do thank God a lot, and I think that's part of prayer and meditation. Years ago, I didn't see the beauty in things. I, was head on into my day, not noticing what was going on around me. If there was a tree there, if there was a bird there, if there was something beautiful, something that my higher power put in front of me to notice, I never noticed it. So today I like to pause and look at these things, look at a tree, look at a bird, notice that. And for me, it's a peaceful feeling. I've also, with Step 11, I've become familiar with pausing. They say to pause if you're agitated, if you're doubtful, and ask HP for the next right thought or action. And sometimes I have to do that. When I'm in a conversation with a person and I need to stop a minute, if I'm ready to lash out or whatever, I have to stop and think about it, pause and reflect. Is this what I really want to say? And that works. It really helps me to think about what I'm doing. I love having the spiritual freedom. Before I had my religion, but I wasn't spiritual. And now this just gives me a great pleasure to develop a conscious contact with my higher power. In the morning when I get up, I'm in bed, and when I open my eyes, I say, thank you, God. And whatever it's for, just for the day, just for waking up, because I know how fragile life is, that something can happen. I'm at an age now with, things are happening to my friends. Like I said, my husband passed away. So I'm thankful for every day that I wake up. I have no aches and pains, and things are okay. So I'm very thankful for that. And I have my action plan for the day. I consider that. I do think about it. I put it down on paper. When I get up, after I say my prayers, I love the third step prayer because I'm offering myself to thee to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self. I don't want to be driven by self-will. I want to be doing God's will, not my will. So I say that every day. A lot of times I stop and I think about, thy will, not mine, be done. I think that I use it a lot more now. I'm in program a long time. I use that a lot more now to overcome my fears, my resentments, negative feelings. I try to stay in the positive. Prayer and meditation helps to put me in that space. I was talking to somebody, and they always say, I know you might hear this from your sponsor, pray about it, pray about it, pray about it. And, before, the person that I wanted an answer right away. I wanted it now. But sometimes it takes a few days, and a decision might come, and you might have to speak to your sponsor about it or another person to see if that's the right thing for you to do. And that came up this weekend for me, and I had some people to talk to. So that prayer and meditation always helps me to give me some clarity around the situation. Sometimes I have to write about it. Sometimes I have to talk about it. I also have a God box. We used to talk about writing and burning. And sometimes I do write letters. I know a lot of my journals I will burn after a while because there's things in there that I don't want people to see, resentments, things about people. So I have done that too. It's just another way of getting rid of. There's different ways. I know we went to a retreat and we wrote on a leaf and we threw it in the river. So there are all kinds of ways that you can practice that. The last thing I'm going to leave you with, I had this situation. I was really upset about it, but I did pray and meditate because I had a resentment over this person that had called me, and what I did was I prayed and meditated about it before I called them. We wound up speaking for an hour in such a loving way about everything and just crying about things that happened that we were able to talk about. So for me, prayer and meditation is very important. So I will stop now. Thank you for listening. Thank you for letting me share. We have a few announcements. Just to remind you, this workshop is being recorded and will be posted on the OA website podcast page, as well as other podcast feeds like iTunes. If you speak, it is considered implied consent to have your voice and your share recorded and posted. To preserve your anonymity, please use your first name or a fictitious name when you share. In accordance with Tradition 6 and 10, please refer only to OA-approved literature when you share. According to our 7th tradition, we are self-supporting through our own contributions. Even though this virtual meeting we still have expenses for the website and uploading the podcast. Please use special workshop meeting number 82278 when making your contribution. You could go to www.oa.org and click on contributions, or you may send your contributions to the World Service Office, Post Office Box 44020. Again, that's 44020, Rio Rancho, New Mexico, 87174. Thank you for helping us to carry the message. And now I will introduce our second speaker, Beverly.
Thank you. My name is Beverly, and I'm a compulsive overeater. And I'm grateful to be here today and to be abstinent today. I'll take just 5 minutes or so to talk about my story. And I came to OA 21 years ago. I guess you could say I was pretty much a mess physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Physically, my life was all about food and anger. If I wasn't eating, I was sleeping, and if I wasn't sleeping, I was yelling at someone. Every day, I swore off all of that, and every day by probably 9 a.m., I was off and running again. With the food and with those behaviors, it was like once I ate one bite, it was like a light switch. I was either on or off, and mostly on. I was 100 pounds overweight. Emotionally, my life was a crisis. I was drawn to people who were also in crisis and spent a lot of time trying to fix their lives because mine seemed to be pretty much beyond me. And the emotions I experienced were basically I was angry, I was guilty, I hated myself, I knew I wasn't living well, and I had no idea how to change that. I would set myself up with systems and diets and sort of things, tasks to modify my behaviors, and I seemed to be completely incapable of doing that. I didn't have a filter, so if I saw it, you got to hear it, whether it was nice or not, and generally it wasn't very nice. I couldn't figure it out. It was logic didn't apply to either my food or any of my behaviors. I'm not a stupid person, but I ended up feeling like I must be very stupid because something as simple as eating less or, being nice was so beyond me. I came to OA feeling very much like the world would be better off if I weren't in it. And I couldn't think of a single thing that I was good at. And that was 21 years ago. I guess I'll talk about spiritually, too. I didn't believe in any God. I believed God didn't exist, and yet I was very, very angry with God. So try and make sense out of that. I felt that the way to navigate through life was to be self-reliant, and yet self-reliance was clearly failing me. I also tried to be dependent on other people, and I felt other people had failed me immensely. So that's where I was, and when I came in 21 years ago, step one was this amazing thing for me. I feel like I needed to just hear step one to see how much it applied to me. My life was such a mess, and I sat in my first meeting and cried and said, I don't care about the weight. I'll stay 100 pounds overweight. I just need to stop acting the way I'm acting. And I'm grateful that after all these years, today I like myself. I'm not a perfect person. I mess things up sometimes. But I can, at this point, see the gifts that I bring. I can see my positive contributions. I'm pretty much drawn to people who are healthy and well now, whereas before I think I deliberately sought out people who maybe were even sicker than I was. I have good relationships. And I have a normal-sized body, which is this amazing thing that I had given up on when I came to OA, and I'm grateful that OA has given me these gifts in physical, emotional, and spiritual realms. It's such a gift to be able to say, I like myself today. What a gift. So to talk about step 11, I panicked a little bit when I heard that, I'm going to be speaking on step 11, because I've always felt like this is the hardest step for me. It's been a long time coming, and pretty much what goes through my head with step 11 is generally a belief that you all are probably much more spiritual than I am and doing a much better job at prayer and meditation than I am. But what I have learned is that when I am asked to share my experience, strength, and hope on a topic, and I really get to looking into it, it's always a growth experience for me. So, I'll say in advance that I get a B in program. I cannot search for the gold star. That's a character defect for me. So I'm getting a B in meditation, or sometimes maybe even a C. But in our 12 and 12, it says the only way to do meditation wrong is to not do it at all. So I'll share my experience. Prayer is easier for me, and I think it's easier for me because I can put it in such tangible forms, and I've always liked things that are very concrete and tangible. When I sit down and I write letters to God, that's very tangible. It gets the things out of my head and is basically the action for me of handing them to God and saying, I don't know what to do with all of this. In our Voice of Recovery, December 4th, the quote, it says, prayer changes things. I'm very clear about that. That is incredibly true for me. I don't know why prayer works. I just know that it does. I started praying before I had any concept of what it was I might be praying to, because I just observed that something happened in me and for me when I prayed. It became not so important to me to define what is it I'm praying to. That drove me crazy for years, and I decided I don't need to know what it is I'm praying to. I just need to know that when I pray, things get better. I often pray out loud in my car because I find myself alone in my car a lot. The radio goes off, and I start talking to God. When I am agitated about something, I send up quick prayers, just those in the moment, and it often sounds like, God, get in my head. I'm agitated, and I know that when I'm in that place, my self-will has a tendency to take over. So, God, get in my head, change my thinking, give me guidance. Another type of prayer I do is what I call pocket prayers, where I will write something on a small scrap of paper and put it in my pocket and just carry it around for a few days. It might, I guess that crosses over with meditation, because it might be a single word or a concept or a full written out prayer that I want to continue to be reminded of. And so when I touch that piece of paper, and it's amazing how many times I stick my hand in my pocket during the day, that's my opportunity to send up another prayer. I've done prayers in crayon in my car. When my kids were little, I was in my car one day, I grabbed a scrap of paper off the floor and a crayon and just sent up a one-word prayer, and it was even a swear word, and it worked. I felt better. My prayers have worked even angry. I felt some anxiety about speaking on this podcast, so my prayer then was, God, let me be useful, and it's calming. Another way that I pray is taking program actions. I consider going to a meeting to be a prayer, calling my sponsor, doing a service, even if I don't want to do it in that moment. These are all actions that I can take that are basically asking God to get in my head. And, for me, one of the best times to go to a meeting is when I'm not feeling the greatest, and meetings change me. Meetings change my thinking and put me in a different place. I'll switch gears now and talk about meditation, which is much, much harder for me. And I'm guessing it's because it's not tangible. That's part of it. The other reason is my head is not a quiet place. In Voices of Recovery, July 16th, I love this reading. It basically talks about two parts. And when it talks about prayer, it says, first, I clear my mind of all the clutter. And I have a lot of clutter in my head. At any given moment, there's the hamster wheel of, what if this, what if that? I'm anxious about this. I'm scared about, whatever. And prayer is my way of clearing all that clutter out. And then the second part of the reading is, then I quiet my heart and I am free to listen to what God would have to say to me. And that's meditation. I love that the two go hand in hand. First clear, then listen. Prayer and meditation. Many of our readings, if you look at up step 11 in an index, talk about meditation in the context of us needing to get quiet, us needing to get still. And I definitely need that. I've heard it said, God is in the pause, and that's incredibly true for me. I don't find God, I don't hear God when I'm in the craziness, when I'm in the clutter, when I'm in the clamor. I hear God when I get quiet. So meditation, like prayer, for me, it's often in my car, in my cell phone as a timer, or sitting at my desk. I need to plant both feet on the ground, just get quiet. And for years, I heard of people, like I had one gal in a program who had almost like I pictured it as like an altar or something. She had this gorgeous place. She had a separate little area in her home that she meditated, and she had candles and, all this pretty stuff. I realized I don't need a pretty place to meditate. If one wants to appear in my life, I'm kind of open to that, but I don't really need it. Meditation can happen anywhere, like prayer can happen anywhere. In the OA 12 and 12, I'm going to read something out of that. It's page 96. It says, meditation is an action which gives us much-needed practice in the art of sitting still and opening our hearts to receive spiritual nourishment. Many of us have spent a lot of time running from the food, then running to it. And many of us have turned to excess foods for its sedative effect. Eating compulsively was our chief means of relaxation. Meditation offers us a way to stop running and relax without eating. When meditating, we consciously choose to focus our minds on something other than our everyday desires and concerns. I love that. I need the quiet. I need the calm. Meditation gives me back my intuition. I find it soothing. It gets me back in touch with God and with what I call my higher self. I really, really believe in the principles of the 12 steps. And step 11 to me, along with step 3, are how I align with those principles and how I realign myself when I'm not doing well. I came to the program with really not in touch with how I was doing, all the nuances of my physical body and how my physical body felt, how I was doing emotionally, how I was doing spiritually. I did know that I was a mess, but all of my feelings and the nuances of those feelings got buried under food and anger and these angry behaviors. Prayer and meditation, to me, these are my paths to peace. I'm so grateful to OA that now in my program, I notice when I have a stomach ache. I did not know before that I got a stomach ache. When I get anxious, I get a stomach ache. I was just so out of touch with my body and its feelings and my emotions. Prayer and meditation, well, this program has given me a way to get back in touch and to take care of myself when needed. And prayer and meditation are key to that. I've got 2 questions that I wanted to put out there for you, and these are from the OA workbook from Step 11. And the first one is question number 4, which is, how important is it for me to have a regular daily quiet time for prayer and meditation? And then question 13, how does time spent in prayer and meditation affect me? And on that second question, if you don't know, and for a long time I didn't know, try it and see what happens. What happens when I pray? How did I feel before? How do I feel afterward? What happens when I meditate? Before and after? What's the difference? And I think I'm very concrete. I tend to do things that make me feel better these days. Thank you for the opportunity to talk on this topic. And with that, I'll close.
Thank you, Beverly. I just want to remind everybody that this workshop is being recorded and will be posted on the OA website podcast page. Again, if you speak, it's considered implied consent to have your voice and your share recorded and posted. To preserve your anonymity, please use only your first name or a fictitious name when you share. In accordance with Traditions 6 and 10, please refer to OA-approved literature when you share.
Hi, this is Barbara B. in Florida, grateful recovering food addict.
Hey, Barbara B.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
I'm in the car. This isn't what I usually do when I'm driving, so I'll just be quick and say, usually I just listen. And thank you for your share. It was great, and I have a clear picture of who my higher power is, but I always like it when I hear people share who don't and who keep doing the disciplines anyway, the prayer and the conscious contact and the meditation, and they get results too, and it's great to hear. And as far as the question about how important is my quiet time, very, very important, very important start to the day. On the days when I have to skimp on it because I'm running late, I really notice a difference. And actually, I've been able to incorporate some quiet time when I get home at night as well, and that's helping me a lot. I find that actually my life is so busy at times, I actually crave that time apart with God, and I've been able to take a little more time off work now, and I have usually at least a couple of hours that I can spend outside with my higher power, maybe doing art, maybe just daydreaming, maybe praying. But it's very essential to me because the world can be busy and noisy and we're all on the go. I just appreciate so much that there's always that quiet space available. So thank you for letting me share, and thanks for doing the workshop today.
Thanks, Barbara.
Hi, this is Stephanie. Could I tell an 11-step story?
Sure. Thank you.
Hi. Thanks, Linda and Beverly. I sure appreciate it. I have a sponsor who suggested to me, she was very directive about how she wanted me to pray and meditate. She gave me the opportunity to pick out a daily reader and to read that and then to write about it and then to have quiet time. And she suggested that I start with 15 minutes, which I don't know if many of you are like me, but in 15 minutes at the beginning of my recovery seemed like I was just going to vibrate out of my chair. But I did the 15 minutes, and there came a point at which I was having trouble managing my time, so I talked to my sponsor about it and asked if she had any suggestions. And her suggestion was that instead of 15 minutes quiet time, I take half an hour quiet time. And to me, that just seemed so crazy. It's like, wait, you don't understand. I need more time, not less time. And what I found was she was exactly right, that when I had that time to pause and slow down and to let my mind align with God's, it made everything easier, and it made the sort of the busy work less important to me, so that I was able to prioritize things and be more effective in the way that I manage my life. So I'm really grateful for this step. Probably if it weren't sort of one of the steps that we're asked to do, if it was only a tool, this would be one that I would skimp on. My sponsor is very keen on making sure that I get quiet time with the God of my understanding. She doesn't tell me what I have to do in that time, but she makes sure that I carve out that period of time to get quiet and to get aligned with my higher power, and that's just been really important. It helps remind me of who's in charge, and it's not me. So thanks a lot for letting me share.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Hi, my name is Sally.
Hi, Sally. Welcome.
Self-11 is really important for me to build my trust in my higher power. I like a lot of the things that I heard today about being quiet and still It's really important to me. One of the things that I try to do is 5 minutes of just reading Voices of Recovery and then journaling about the page of the day, and that really helps me a lot to center in. And I feel like it's a form of meditation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally.
Hi, my name is Sue. I'm calling from Michigan.
Hi, Sue. Welcome.
Thanks. I really appreciated especially what Beverly had to say about not feeling like she's the best at this step, because that's how I feel. That helps me know that it's okay to get started and to do it imperfectly at first. I did have an experience on Friday where I did feel like I made contact and I got some inspiration, and so that encourages me to continue to try to do it on a daily basis so that I can be inspired by the higher power's wisdom more often, because the higher power is definitely a lot wiser than I am. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I'm just going to read the opinions expressed here today are those of individual OA members and do not represent OA as a whole. So I would like to close with the Serenity Prayer, if you'll join me. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.